I recreated Squid games in chess, and it was actually so fun. We even had player 456 join in with an elo of 2200. Only 2000 rating points higher than you. Basically, these are the rules. I created a chess.com arena and every game would start from this crazy position. Now, nobody knew that every game would start from this position, and they also had only 10 seconds on their clock. Each move you make, you get 11 seconds addition, so the challenge was to make the first few moves in this ridiculous position. This position was generated by an AI that I made that was trained to create really fun starting positions for chess. In this video, I'm gonna show you the highlights, the most interesting and absolutely crazy games of this tournament. In case you're interested to join in this tournament, I do host them quite often. My Twitch link is in the description. Let's dive into this and see what happened. So the arena is of course called We Are Horses, because this is chess, not Squid games. And the first game we're gonna look at is me versus player 456. Both of us are 2200s. This was the very first game of the arena. I'm with the white pieces, and as you can see on the first move I took like 6 seconds and I was almost getting flanked, but lucky for me I realized that the best move is 93. The reason I always started with 93 is because I realized that this is dangerous. So starting with 93 gives me that comfort that whenever he gives me check in any of these ways, I can just cover that up with knight c2. And 93 is also a discovery check, so I can always just choose the next move. That's why I was like, okay, 93 is definitely the first move, the way to go. And I was right. It was actually the best move. The funny thing is, in this game, I played such a great game. I made only the best moves somehow. But then later in the arena, I started to play the worst games, making crazy bad moves. Like, I could have just played in this same way, but for some reason, I didn't realize that this is that good. He goes for knight e6, which is also good. I take that queen on g5. Now here, of course, I didn't have to take that, but I was like, this queen is in the game. My queens are not in the game. So I was like, there is no way this is not the best move, because this queen is gonna destroy my king, right? So I was like, I have to get rid of it. That's why I took. He decides to take my rook, which is the first blunder of this game. Apparently, queen h2 is the best move, which does make sense, to be fair. You want to punish white and get the checks in. But it takes, and now I do queen c7. Now there's no queen h2, and I have an extra queen. If you look at the material, black still has some advantage. Black has an extra rook. Black has more pieces, but this queen is much stronger than that. So that's why here I was like, I can just take his rook. Position is valued +6 in this position. And the simple reason why that is the case is because I have bishop c8 check. Of course, the crazy part is I didn't see this bishop c8 in the long run. But when we came to this position, I was like, oh, I have bishop c8. It's like a discovery check, and the rook on e7 kind of hangs. The best move here was rook e6, because I'm just going to take your rook. At least you can try to get my bishop for it. But he went for bishop d7, which seems like a good try. The idea is that I don't get to take his rook. He goes king g3. And now he's just like trying to take here and then take my bishop. Or if I take here, he gets the knight. So at least he's like trying to not give up his piece and get something in return. The problem with this is that I have a fork here. And the check was quite annoying. If you went king h4, the same fork would have worked. So it was really easy to blunder this fork. After which the game is basically over. So this is how easy I won the very first game. But I ended up getting the third place because after this game, for some reason, my brain got turned off and I started to play terrible games. That's why this is the only game of me that we'll have a look at. This is the second game that we're gonna look at. It's played by a 2200 and a 1900. Now, spoiler alert, 1900 ended up winning the tournament. So don't underestimate the 1900. And the 2200 got the second place, and then I got the third place. So let's see how this game went. We got the same 93 idea. I think I was the person who gave birth to this idea, and then everybody started to follow. So I'm proud for finding that 93 idea. But here we get a more interesting idea, which is knight e6. And honestly, it's definitely a good try. Like, you're winning a piece there, you're attacking the queen. It's certainly a good move. You're also opening things up for the c file. Like in some lines, you can give a check with the bishop when the king is not here, and then the queen joins in. So knight e6 was actually a great move as well. Rook g5, this is the only move that makes white stay in the game. Anything other than rook g5, you're completely losing. Which does make sense. We got knight g5, which is surprisingly a mistake. Again, queen h2 is the best move. I think black always mislooks this move because it's really hard to find this move. I don't think anybody did this move in the entire tournament. Like, we did not know the position, okay? And there is a rook hanging. Who would be like, okay, let's go for this crazy queen diagonal move and give a check when we know very well that it's so easy to block? There's also knight g2 too, so like it's quite easy to block. And when I do knight g2, like, it's not like you can take, because I do rook h5 and I get your queen. So it's a very tricky situation. In this game, black decided to do knight g5 though, and then white blunders to rook e7. Queen c7 is the best move. The move that I did in the previous game. It's a very similar situation. They played in a different way, but it's kind of like the same position. So he goes for rook e7, which is the wrong order, because now you just lose your queen. You know, you could have done rook e7 after trading the queens. Now when you took here, you just lose your queen. So it does make sense that rook e7 is the wrong order of moves. Like, it just doesn't really make that sense. And bishop d7 here was the wrong move. Don't ask me why. I guess the idea is queen f6 check first and then you take. But I mean, bishop d7 is more logical, to be honest. It's a more human move, I would say. So now the position is completely equal. After all this crazy blunders, the evaluation bar jumping up and down, we got a completely equal position. Black goes for queen f6 and goes for the trade, which lands in a very cool endgame. 3 pieces, 2 pawns versus 3 pieces. It's of course a draw, but black has some winning chances. So black goes for knight f4, blunders the piece. Again, don't ask me why. Now it's like complete draw, I would say, because these 2 pawns don't give you advantage anymore since white has an extra piece. So black is trying to like cover that up and push this pawn, which of course makes sense. And then the white also is playing in a very smart way, making sure to block everything with both knights. Get king e1, knight h1, and then white is just bringing his king. Now here black makes the next terrible mistake, which is king e1. And the funny thing is, this is the best move according to the engine, because you have to give that piece. But what's even crazier is that like it's still draw. You just move this, you just make sure to like save this piece, just move this piece. And it's like a piece versus 3 pieces. It's a crazy endgame. I wish they ended up playing this endgame, because this endgame could have been really interesting. But they ended up not playing this endgame because black just blundered the final piece. Like, this would have been such a cool endgame, because I think it's a draw, but it's not impossible that white gets the win. It's not very easy to defend with that one piece. So I would say it would be really cool to watch that. That would be very intense endgame. But unfortunately, black blundered the final piece and resigned. I mean, bishop and 2 knights. A 2200 is gonna do that, trust me. A 2200 will even do bishop and the knight. It's even easier when you have the extra knight. Now, this is the final game that we're gonna look at. It's me versus a 700. Don't ask why. But it's an unbalanced game. I'm showing this game because I think I won in it. You know, I only show my game that I won. I don't show the game where I lost. So we get the same 93 idea, a little bit boring already. So that's why I tried king h4 this time. I tried to bring some diversity. We get rook g5 and I make the first blunder. The only good move was rook d8. And it does make sense because you can win that queen. Now when you do rook d2, you can just give that queen and take your rook, right? You could have just won that queen, but now you're giving a rook for it, which doesn't make sense. But he didn't take, he went knight c2, knight d3, the next mistake. You know, the funny thing is I went knight d3 because I did see that he has queen d2. So I went knight d3, but now he has queen d3, so I didn't make it any better. Again, I should have just taken this queen. But I decided to go for knight d3. We had king b3, another funny thing, he still doesn't take. And I had mate in 3, literally mate in 3 here. With bishop d5. There was a mate in 3. The idea is that the queen comes in. And it's like mate. But I blundered it. And the thing that hurts is bishop d5 is mate in 3 for black. And any other move you do, white is completely winning. That's how crazy this position is. I went for queen d8 finally, getting rid of the queen. But now it's a bit tricky because there's a pin here. He actually had rook g8, but he missed it. Like, he could have just checked me and won my queen. He decided to go for bishop c6. I did knight c5, and now I was like, okay, yeah, bishop c6 was a big blunder, because now the initiative is mine. Now I get some checks, I got my queen into the game, and I just mate this king. Now I was like, okay, I'm 100% winning this. We got king b2, which is the best move, the only move that doesn't get mated immediately. But I see this nice rook c2 idea, sacking the rook and bringing the queen in anyways with a check. Bishop c3, this is another great move, by the way. It's like the best way to continue. But then I didn't see how to continue after king a3, unfortunately. I was looking at some checks with the bishop, but I was just not seeing how to checkmate. So I decided to go for rook a7, which was a bad idea because of rook a4. He did not see rook a4. If you do rook a4, you give a check, basically. That's why rook a7 is not the best idea. Like, he goes here and check. But after knight a4, there's mate in 2. There is literally a mate in 2. It was hard to see. It's like bishop d4, king a2, rook a4. The idea is you just cut this rook and then take. Right? So I kind of missed that, I'll be honest. I decided to go for rook a4, which is a terrible mistake because literally the only legal move is rook a4. So I kind of forced my opponent to do something that he didn't even see. This is the only legal move right now, which is a great move because it's discovery check. And then I took the bishop on e6, which I'm really happy about. That was the only move, the only good move. You may think, what happens if I move the king here? There's rook h4, and I'm getting mated, literally. If I move the king here, then there is rook g4. And again, like, white is better because you go here, and now there is check, and you lose that. So white is like totally winning. And if you go here, rook h4, and again, you're getting mated in 3 moves. So that's why I had to do knight e6. That was the only way to still win this game. If no knight e6, then you'll lose as black. There is rook f3, but it's okay. We just sack our queen, we take on a4, and this is a winning endgame. I ended up winning this game easily. And I think he resigned in this position. So this was the final game that I wanted you guys to have a look at. To be honest, I'm not even sure if these are the most fun games, but all the games we played were honestly really fun because of how crazy the position was. It was like always the eval bar kept jumping up and down. That's why it was really fun, because it was very unexpected, very hard for humans to play, to find the best moves. I would say this is also good for you to improve. Again, if you want to join, I do host a lot of tournaments like this on my Twitch streams. I also give free advice to my viewers, review their games. My Twitch link is in the description, feel free to join. But that was it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, hope you learned new things. Let me know if you liked it and want to see more format like this. And see you in the next video.